Welcome to the Molybdenum Software Show, where Jeremy has been doing lots and lots of contributions recently to the Nix formatting team.
And that was playing hot potato. Nobody wanted it, and now I'm team lead. But I don't know. Hopefully it won't be much of a commitment. We've got an official formatter. It's like a little bit of documentation, doing a 1.0 release. Hopefully not much more.
Well, I have feedback.
Oh boy. Bring it on.
Okay, so share screen. Let's say whatever. Oh, going to this work tree. It has some Nix flag, and whatever file.
Oh no, you have a banana cursor?
Yes.
This the tiger sprint thing somebody worked on?
I don't know if they worked on it or just figured out how to do it and shared with
okay.
everyone. I like it. Look, it does.
How hard do you have to train your brain to understand where the cursor pointer is? Like the tip of the banana?
Yeah, tip of the banana.
Okay.
It also has.
Very cute.
Why doesn't it? Isn't it meta space typically? What? Meta shift.
Ooh.
This.
Okay. I can't tell. That's not a banana. That's just the same yellow.
Yeah, it's just the yellow. But there wasn't another thing here. I don't. What is it? Is it scrolling? Is there a pointer?
Oh, like if you middle click. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I like it. So let's go here. No, that's not this is the next file. So, for example, this semi. Like,
okay.
If I do this makes sense. Okay, no double empty line, right? Mm-hmm. But if I do this, right, it brings that semi back into the thing that it ends. Mm-hmm. But if I do it twice, I get this strange empty line.
Wow. Yeah, it's the same AST, it's just a weird formatting? Or is this actually breaking the code?
No, it's the same AST. The white space doesn't matter.
Yep. Should file an issue. This is an interesting relationship I have with Nix FMT. I haven't been leader of many open source things, but I don't know Haskell. So I'm not fixing any bugs to come up.
Okay.
It's going to be somebody else.
Let's figure out how to do a failing test.
Sure. You mean like to report the bug? Or to report the issue?
What's the repo?
Nixos/nixfmt.
Okay, so.
But we should maybe. I don't know how many open issues there are. Might be worth checking to see if there is one already.
Sure. I'll do it after cloning.
Cool.
Nix DOS, Nix font, right?
That's the one.
Bear. So hyphen bear. Let's get in here. Well, I mean, even if issue list, not many. Add line length limit, strings are absorbed, inconsistent splitting. Weird formatting, optional single line, multi-line strings, stable release, long function application format, stood out, F something something, appending an optional string, consider not splitting last line of block comment, only specific line range, git pre, commit, push, CLI option to format, none, prove, comments should not be from, investigated or config, deprecate hackage, RFC implementation tracking issue, about to Nix events, show, comment directive, disable, configure indentation size, provide a git of action, add a bench, sweet.
Yeah, none of these seem likely to be it.
So, work tree add dot. This is a custom function I have here.
Mhm.
I'll call it mix font. What do I call it? What is this? Blank lines before semi.
Sure.
Oh. Will this take long?
Don't know. I don't know if I've ever done this. The issues I have posted to the issue tracker have not involved me cloning the repo.
I wonder why sometimes Nix tells me how much it's going to download and other times it does not. Does that have to do with IFD?
I have no
Oh,
idea.
hello.
Now it's back to telling you.
Wow. That's a lot.
Why are we entering this repo?
Because I want to make a PR with a failing test case for this.
Oh, okay.
Why does it happen twice? I don't know. Let's see. Test. Diff. Diff. What does that mean? Like in and out. Okay. So this is the format in which I'm supposed to report, make the test.
Maybe.
Is there like test semi? No. But there's test correct, which won't help, right? We need a test for diff because that has incorrect. Okay, let's make a new one. Let's do test diff semi in out. And it's just, what is it? It's like, oh, because it's Nix, then it's actual Nix files.
I guess so.
Okay. Make dir test diff semi. And write this as test diff, not team, test diff semi. It's probably not semi, but maybe someone knows better. It's going to implement it. In Nix. And oops, not this way, that way. Out. Cool. There'll be another set with rever a oh, I don't want that completion. And like this. But it needs a value. Give it a null.
Looks good.
And I want this to turn into that. Simple.
Ship it.
pretty much it. So, this, okay, fine. I think this is probably enough. I don't even need to try to run the test. So git add those files. Would switch. Let's see. This is usually it's master. Git switch. Lines. Commit. Let's see the log. Nothing very structured, so git commit. Oops. Test case for empty lines before send.
I'm having trouble reading this diff. Why does the in.nix appear to be empty? The out.nix is there.
I didn't save it.
Aha.
Okay, let's allow this to occur and then commit,
Cool.
amend. Okay.
Love it.
PR, GitHub repo for Nix font. There's only one Nix font in the world, right? So yes, I would like to add mode and GitHub repo set default. That one. PR create. Push it here. In the past, if there was only one commit, it used to just reuse that for the title. I don't know why it doesn't do that anymore.
That's lame. I think the UI still does that. Like when I push, that click on that link that appears after you push.
Line. That's good enough. Edit. No templates. Okay. Well, I can write test case for and a possible. I would suggest would be a possible improvement. What?
Looks good.
Submit as draft. Okay. And there's another one. Not here. Another one. So just to make sure that I produced it properly. Work trees, your tracker, editor, go to some Nix file. I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's something like if I have okay, this is proper. If I have an empty attr set, it would actually add the space inside the single space. But if I break it to multiple lines, it keeps it this way, even if it's just like I don't see any of this as useful. Like you'd never.
Right.
An empty attr set should always be this way. It's one way to represent it, unless there's a comment inside.
Right. Yeah. That one, again, I have no idea if it's intentional, but the like sort of honoring people's white space choices seems also not totally unreasonable. Like the first one was also honoring white space choices, but seemed unreasonable. The like, here's an empty attr set where I plan to add stuff to it, and the diff will be smaller if you let these things stay. on 2 separate lines. Like, I don't know. But yeah, we're submitting. Certainly, get somebody who has some context on all of this, get their thoughts on it.
Cool.
I am
So
not that person.
switch back to switch C empty adder set remove empty line. Remove empty lines. Empty adders from master. Okay, make dir test diff empty. Move. So these names here are pretty short.
Yeah. Monsters. 1 through 5. Interesting.
Strip. Did I use hyphens before? Never mind. Strip lines from strip lines from empty. Okay. Test diff strip lines in mix out mix and the other set, whether it's, can I do multiple of these? Because oh well, I can do this with okay, so I'll do A has single line feed. B has 2.
Yeah.
And C has 3. All should end up as that.
Okie dokie.
And save everything. Okay. Commit. Running test for stripping lines from empty. .br create draft. Push it over there. Remove. Not empty lines. Remove empty lines. Yeah, empty lines. Empty lines. Okay, that's
Great.
done.
Thank you.
And let's get out of here. Store this. This is this work tree should be destroyed. I'm doing git cd. And what is it? Git work tree move tab completion work tree spare tracker fine. Oh, that takes a long time. Why does it take a long time? Because it has the Rust target cache
Don't know.
directory.
So,
okay.
Are you all in on work trees? Like,
I create them. But I have, if you look at my work trees, you'll see this trees that I have stuff that is not named after some change. It has stuff that, this is a name. This is the name of the project. This is the name of the project. This is the name of the project. This is the name of the project.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in on work trees, but I also reuse work trees.
Mm-hmm. I stumbled across.
But I also don't, right? Like, I do also do this. This is Nix packages, GG Wave.
Have you ever stumbled across this project? I don't know how to pronounce it. Called Git Prol, Git P-roll.
No, I have not.
It seems like it might be. Here, I'll share a link here.
Oh, let's rotate.
Entire screen. Here we go. All right. PR tracker?
Yes, but show me what Git P-roll is.
Oh yeah, I mean I haven't tried it. This person, usually I snoop on people whenever I see them for the first time on GitHub, and they filed an issue with the tree fund, which I'm a maintainer of, and then I think they sent in a PR actually, and then I clicked through and I stumbled across this thing, and I learned, I basically got this far, and I didn't even know this was possible. You can have a bare repository alongside your work trees right there, which seems like a nice way to structure things. So that was all. Oh, I cannot hear you. Is that me? No, I can hear things. Possible
Sorry,
something on
it's
here?
me, and there's no indication because I'm doing.
Cool.
Yeah, that does look like it might be convenient.
Yeah, I don't know, reduce the number of commands you have to run to do simple things. I don't know. Let me know if you try it out though.
Roger.
We landed OpenAPI last time we were
Yes.
here. And then I think, what was the next thing? Look at the issue list and
Exactly. And we
pick the
also
next
had a milestone using the GitHub milestone feature.
Yeah, so we should take a look at that thing. I don't know where these milestones show up in the UI. MVP. Okay, I guess MVP is done. There we go.
But we have added some issues after updating MVP about a year ago.
Okay.
A year ago.
So, do we want to close this one done, or do we want to add things?
I think we should look at the issues because we have added issues. See, and we did not consider whether those issues are MVP or not.
Okay, let's do it. So I don't think it's possible to know which ones we've considered. So you want to start from the top or the bottom?
There is. I think if we go to the go back to the list of milestones,
Mm-hmm.
you can see for each one last updated. If you point at for the other one for MVP,
Mm-hmm.
wait, formally deployed. That's deployed. What does it mean? What does it actually mean?
I don't think we've clarified, but
so okay,
this was
so this
a blocker,
is the one we're
apparently.
aiming for. I think MVP is done. Was done already for Oh, so
Cool.
this was updated 5 days ago, so now we don't have a way to know. But I think it's if the last issue there is OpenAPI, then we don't need to review issues older than OpenAPI.
Okay, great. So 188, starting with 189. Okay, here we go. Okay. This is only going to affect developers.
Right. No,
This
not
is
needed.
this. I don't know what this is.
Oh, this is a linter. Use attribute to implement these conversions. Oh, well,
This code doesn't
just
even apply anymore, does it? Haven't we changed this? No, does it still exist? We were touching this code as part of the API, Open API stuff.
No, it still exists.
Okay. All right. Probably not a user-facing thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is arguably user-facing.
It is user-facing. I'm not sure how we want to configure the host, so I don't know that this is necessary.
I'm fine with skipping it. This is a developer thing.
Uh-huh.
This affects our CI, but not our users. Missing test, that could affect our users. I think you were, when we were talking about it last, I think you were pretty motivated to do this one.
Yeah, but it's not. I'm also not concerned about the coverage for this.
Yeah. And then reconsider returning 404s. Okay. This is user-facing. You want to talk about this one?
Right. That's an API consideration. API design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to ask Grok or whatever you want to ask?
Have you had a chance to look through the Stack Overflow?
No. Please show us that.
Okay. Let's start there. Not saying this is the best source of knowledge, but it is the question. So, if a resource requested doesn't exist, a 404 is returned. It adds unnecessary ambiguity.
Sure.
And this person claims it's more traditionally associated with a bad URI, but there are going to be people who say, nope, that's not what it means. And he wants to return a empty response with a 200 OK or something. And he's going to get some feedback from the REST zealots here. So I think this is the REST zealot answer, which is return a 404 and provide a response body or headers that developers will see. And somebody says, but what's the point? Why not do a 200? And he says, well, you're going against the HTTP spec. And, it probably devolves just into a philosophical debate at that point. So this is somebody else also saying, no, don't do that. This person's being a little more nuanced and saying, it depends.
I would read that.
Yep.
First, URIs should be opaque. Even if they're not opaque to people, they're opaque to machine. In other words, the difference between the correct but missing item and the incorrect path is the same as the difference between the missing item and non-missing item, i.e., not the same is not the same, period.
Not sure I follow that sentence.
So he's basically saying HTTP status codes, they fall in a lower layer of the stack. They don't care whether...
Oh, I see. He's saying it's not going against the spec per se. Okay.
Resource missing is resource missing. That's what he's saying.
Mhm.
But that I think the question is what the resource is.
Right.
How do you
Yeah.
define the resource?
Exactly.
Is the resource so it's completely arbitrary. But he's also saying you could also return an empty 200 response or more explicitly at 204, no content response. This would convey something else to the client. It would imply that the resource identified by 14 has no content or is essentially nothing. It does mean that there is such a resource. However, it does not necessarily mean that you are claiming there is some user persisted in a data store with ID 14. That's your private concern, not the concern of the client making it. So if it makes sense to model your resources that way, go ahead. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
That if it, it's all semantics. There are some
Yep.
security implications to giving your clients information that would make it easier for them to guess legitimate URIs. Okay, we don't have security concerns. It's all public data.
Yep.
And it's not 200, right? It's like, if there's something more specific, like no content, can we see like the semantic meaning of no content? It's a successful response, no content. Status code indicates that a request has succeeded, but the client doesn't need to navigate away from its current page. Ooh. What? Current page. 204 response is cacheable by default. Cacheable? And then e-tag header is included in such cases. Oh. I don't know that we want specifically, like, these ones should probably never be cached.
Right. And we're not going to put e-tag headers in, so that should be fine.
Well, what would be fine? What do you claim would be fine?
It's cacheable, and an e-tag header is included in such cases, meaning the way I'm reading that sentence is it'll get cached if you include an e-tag header, or could get cached if you include an e-tag header. But we're not including an e-tag header, so.
You're saying if we don't include an e-tag header with a 204, a browser, a user agent would not cache it?
That's how I'm reading that sentence.
I think it would cache it. And if you want to be more specific about how long to cache it for, you'd put an e-tag header. That's what it does, right? Yeah. Like, when should you?
I think so. Yeah. But I think you and I are just, the sentence is maybe a little ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm reading this more as it'll only be cached if you include the tag header, and I think you're reading it as it'll be cached and more in a more nuanced fashion if you include a header.
And that determination is important to me because, for the sake of deciding whether this is appropriate, because we kind of want to say no content. There's no content for this. Literally, that's true. Because there is no such PR, there's no content for it. I mean, we can give you content for PRs that exist. So this is fine. PRs that exist and we've, responded to, we've processed.
Yep.
But certainly we don't want any caching for PRs. I don't know about PRs that exist. That we gave an answer. I think that, that also, because branches are added. We haven't talked about caching at all for this service. I don't know what user agents do. I don't know what they do.
Yeah, I also don't know. I don't think we should be asking our clients to do any caching. We've put a lot of effort into pre-computing everything so that we can answer questions quickly.
Well, yeah. It's just not the kind of service we want to provide. We want to provide a service where it is up to date. So asking our clients to cache is counterproductive to that.
Right.
So if
And again,
no
I'm
content,
not reading
Mhm.
this as like, I mean, we'd have to play with it, I guess, or ask the internet. But I'm not necessarily reading this as like, I don't know. Does it say 200 is cacheable? Yeah, see, a 200 is also cacheable by default.
Mhm.
That's nearly the same sentence, right?
Mhm.
We are returning 200s, so
Well, I guess we have another thing to look at. Maybe we are supposed to declare this all the responses as don't cache this. Don't want cache.
maybe, yeah, we could read up on eTag. I know nothing about it.
How about we go into we make an issue just to record what we're doing.
Mhm.
Something like consider whether the service should tell clients not to cache.
Oops. Okay. Okay. Shall we say that that is part of the milestone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Is this also part of the milestone?
Yes.
Great.
Not
Nope.
MVP.
Nope. Thank you. Okay. Great. So then I think the other thing we should look at is our README, which has like a vision written out. So is any of this stuff?
Push-driven updates, not necessary. I think by definition, everything here is not necessary. Event record keeping, that's that additional big thing, right? Webhook service, again. So we really want to be in all these places, and backport PRs, definitely we definitely want to be there. In fact, maybe backport PR is the single most important additional
I
feature.
would argue not specifically this, but like, I mean, maybe the answer is to just pull with greater frequency. But I do feel like the current user experience of like, you got to wait 24 up to 24 hours after PR gets merged.
That's not in
To
the software itself, is it?
what's
It's
not in
all
the
in
software
the
itself?
deployment of the software. This
Right.
24 hours.
Yeah. So I don't remember if we even have an option for that. Let's see.
It's not an option, is it? It's
Fetcher
no,
enable,
yeah, there is. There's
but I don't see a cron expression here.
because on calendar. Yeah.
Why am I not seeing this?
Text search for on calendar.
There we go.
That's how we
Okay.
do it.
This doesn't say if it's required or not. It does not have a default. Okay, great. All right. So what do we think would be a reasonable deployment configuration? If the goal here is to deploy this thing.
With regards to on calendar?
Yeah. What would we actually configure?
Um, No, every minute.
So let's see.
Sorry about this. Seems to be power outage.
Oh, interesting. But you're still up.
My access point is behind a UPS and
But
my
your
computer.
computer? Okay, got it.
And that's my UPS, which cannot be silenced.
Okay, so I think running every minute would be basically dooming whatever server we deploy it to be working basically all the time.
Because this is the fetcher and it takes that much. Why does it take that much?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done a performance analysis. We got it working, and then we took a long break. So it's been
Are you
running in my home lab this whole time. I haven't taken the time to profile it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like it's averaging just under a minute. Oh, and that one took just over a minute.
I don't think this should be the case, right? I mean, I don't like. The theory is that it. What is the query is small, right? Like the response is like optimized. Like the query is to ask for some small subset of PRs. It's not going through all the PRs, right? There's cleverness in it, right?
Yeah, I think it's clever enough to. Yeah, we have that trick with like the continuation token, but then for
Right.
each PR, we loop over every single commit in Nix packages and insert a row into the database. I mean, insert potentially many rows, multiple rows into the database, I guess.
Uh-huh. Well, and okay, well, I guess it's reasonable because this is, in our vision, this is not meant to be the primary way in which things are, in which our database is updated. This is the secondary way in which our, so possibly the initial way, right? It needs to happen
Yeah,
periodically.
but I mean, it's also interesting if we have a fetcher operation that takes almost a minute. Whenever, say, we're subscribed to some webhook, reacting to every webhook and triggering a 1 minute operation would be a bad idea, right?
I don't think the webhook would take as long to subscribe because I think the data we get from the webhook is has a more specific. It shows you, I don't know which. I don't. Sorry, I'm not. I don't have the model. Don't remember what how this works.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we have a choice. The way I had always assumed we would implement the webhook, we wouldn't have to be so stressed about missing a webhook. So we wouldn't actually do anything with the payload. We would just say, oh, okay, it's time to compute again. But if we want to do something more nuanced that like actually looks at the payload of the webhook, then yeah, maybe it's more efficient. It's a little hard to say without knowing where our time is being spent every night here.
Well, if we have the mental model, because it's not about macro optimization. It's not about like time. If time is being spent unnecessarily, that's a different thing. But if in theory, I think theory should get us there. If we just look at the model of what happens, then we should know what to expect with the information we receive from a webhook.
Yeah. So remind me, we every night we wake up, we collect all the PRs that have been merged to main that we haven't seen yet. And then what do we do with each of those PRs? We loop over each of them individually? And then loop over every...
get the merge commit of each of them.
Okay, right. So we insert the merge commit into some table or something. And then we loop over what? Like every commit of every branch that we track and check to see if it's in the PR landings, the merge commits list.
Probably.
Let's take a look at that.
And that's why it doesn't work for backports.
So fetcher lib run. Okay. So this is probably the thing that does the GraphQL query. Then we do the get operations to pull the latest code. Then we query for all the branches that we track. Then we collect all the PRs. What is PRs? Okay, so that's a map of get commit to PR number. Okay, and then what we do is we loop over every branch, and we probably then walk every commit in each branch, right? Yeah. So I think that's it. Rev walk all the way to head. All the way from head. And then for every commit, we check, is it in the list of PRs merging? Is it a PR merge commit? And if it is, we generate a landing, and then we do this batch insert at the end. So basically for every PR we find, we have to walk over every commit in every branch that we track.
Okay.
So
what would be the webhook that we subscribe to? That some PR was merged.
I don't think that would do it. I mean, we could, since we're going to catch up with everything periodically, but that wouldn't identify things like Nixos unstable advancing to then pull in PRs.
Because, okay, that does not occur via PR.
That's not it. Yeah, the PR's already been merged at that point.
That would be a push.
Yeah, so I think what we would do is maybe
subscribe push on the correct branches, the track branches.
I suppose ideally the correct branches, but then the simpler thing is probably push on all branches, right?
But we don't care about all branches, do we?
Sure. But, I mean, the configuration that our users use, isn't it like they can specify a glob of branches? So this like, yeah, they can specify branch patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which are these globs. So if somebody said I'm interested in like all Nixos star branches, and we start up, we configure our service to, I don't know, we configure our webhook to only notify us about a finite number of branches or something, and then a new branch gets created that matches the glob. How are we going to start like subscribing to updates on that branch?
Subscribing. I don't know. Is that when does subscribing occur?
Okay, yeah. So I guess I don't know. I mean, maybe what we do is the simplest thing, I think, would be to subscribe to all updates on all branches. And then when we see an update
filtering
on a branch,
is a non-issue. It's not relevant.
Yeah, we just, if it's a branch that we don't track, we just ignore it. That feels to me like the simplest way to implement this.
Well, regardless, the next thing that happens is we get the new commit for that branch. And we have to rev walk only on that branch instead of...
Yeah, as opposed to all the branches we track. Yeah. So we have to do the like get fetch operation. And
hold on just a moment. Why do we have to rev walk? We don't have to rev walk. We just have to see whether this commit is a merge commit. That's all. Is that right? I mean,
I don't
other than
understand.
backports, right?
What's this about merge commits?
We get a commit. Some branch is at a new commit.
Yes.
But the push, the push is a series of, it pushes forward a whole history of commits in which there could be multiple merged BR commits.
Yes.
Therefore, we need to walk them again for this as well. So I think our next major optimization is in the walking to have a marker as well. How far back in time did we walk this?
That would be, yeah. So that's something we spent a lot of time talking about and eventually bailed on. But that would probably help so that we're not rewalking the whole history every time.
Okay, so as is, we do so perhaps
I've got another thought,
Mm.
just since we're looking at real world usage, which I haven't done any of. I'm curious how big our Postgres database is here. It's Postgres, right?
Varan.
Is it
I don't
varrun,
remember.
really? Varrun, varlib. Yeah, okay, you're right. PostgreSQL. That can't be right. That's probably just where the sockets are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where the socket is. Sudo ls varlib psql post. Search.nexus postgres data dir maybe. That's the thing. Okay.
Varlib PostgreSQL.
Yeah, but we tried to find that and it didn't show up there. So I wonder if I've configured it. Oh, look at that. Sorry. Don't remember the things. Okay, so it's 2.3 gigs. Which is like a lot, but probably not a problem, right?
Yes.
Like how big is that even compared to like the .git directory of like Nix packages? It's probably pretty huge. Yeah. Okay. So that's reasonable, right? Like that doesn't smell ridiculous.
I mean, we know what we put there.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that like Git's internal representation is significantly more efficient per like bit of useful information than ours is, but it does make sense that ours would be large, and it makes sense that it would hopefully be smaller than the full Git object history of Nix packages.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, I mean, I think like something that would be very interesting would be to see like how much this drops if we implemented the optimization of like remembering where we left off.
Sure would.
But that's not something like that's like a non-trivial thing. So and then you were making the case, so just to pop off of that for a little bit, I think you were making the case that this felt more important.
Yes, because this has to do with what the data actually is. Like, this is incomplete data to say, well, these are the branches, but hey, what about backports? So it's like, the data we actually want includes backports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't super bother me. Like, I feel like the user could handle the backport problem. Like, I get that would be annoying, but
regardless of prioritization, I think we can ship this to users and explain the current deficiencies. I think.
Yeah. So I think like a reasonable configuration might be something like once an hour or something.
1 minute per hour.
That's not a big percentage of the hour. It's a 60th, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, and then we could iterate. Many users would be okay with these two deficiencies. No backports, and it's only once per hour.
Mm-hmm.
I sneeze, and it's an hour. An hour's gone.
Okay. So we're not going to put anything on that milestone. We've had the conversation. We're not going to put anything new on the milestone.
Except for what we just did.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So maybe this is an easy one to eliminate. My hypothesis is that clients aren't caching, but we need to verify that somehow. So we have a deployed thing that isn't doing anything with e-tags, right?
Right. Well, look,
Oh, hey, here's something I'd like to make a case for changing. Mm-hmm. I do not like this API. I dislike the ambiguity between requesting a PR versus asking for a health check.
Mm-hmm.
I would vote for revving out a V2 of our API before we, deploy for users. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that's a big task, so hopefully it's not too terrifying. How's your battery level?
3 out of 5.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Every time this happens, I tell myself, well, when the power comes back, it'll be... You'll
have refreshed your battery, given it a workout.
Because whenever a service goes out, if it's like my internet goes out, then I get an SMS saying that it's for service improvement.
So your service will get better.
Right. It's an investment.
You want to do caching first?
Sure, yeah, we were on that.
Okay. So we have a UI here. It's, what's your favorite Nix packages PR? I've got one that landed recently. I'm curious about. Patched Nix packages. Post SRSD. This one right here. 3.9. How's this one doing? Okay. No branches. I thought this thing had just landed. Am I misremembering? Oh, you know what? I bet did it land today? 13 hours ago. Okay, perfect example. The job has not run yet. So, anyways, we can still check to see if it caches. This is actually a great example. We could do the query, and then I could kick up the job, and we could see if the update comes across. Okay, so I do not have disable cache checked right there.
I see.
And that sure looks like a real request to me with a response. And if I refresh, I do have preserve log turned on. That also looks like, to me, another actual request occurred.
If there's a response and you see the actual content, I think it means. But this is 200. What about 204?
I think we're going to need to play around with something. We've got the ability to.
Is theory not enough?
Is theory not enough?
Yeah, I think theory, like asking an LLM, would actually be more complete than this, because this is a browser and not, it's one kind of user engine.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to start by clicking through to eTag on those MDN docs, just to see if this still says anything.
HTTP tag, entity tag, response header is an identifier for a specific version of a resource. It's an identifier for a version of a resource. It lets caches be more efficient and save bandwidth. The web server does not need to resend. It will respond if the content has not changed. Additionally, e-tags help to prevent simultaneous updates of a resource from overwriting each other mid-air collisions. If the resource at a given URL changes, a new e-tag value must be generated. Comparison of them can determine whether two representations.
So I think the contract here is a client, when it makes a subsequent request, will include in the request the e-tag that it got previously when it made that request.
That would be necessary, yes.
And then the server, if it sees that, oh, yep, nothing's changed, it won't even send the body. This only sounds useful to me with large files.
Right. Like our e-tag might be pretty much the same size as the data that we're sending.
Right.
So we definitely don't need an e-tag for our service.
Yeah.
But we examined this just for the purpose of understanding whether 204 is typically cached. What specifically more? What does it mean, cached by default?
It says cacheable.
Cacheable by default. Yeah. What does that mean?
So I think cacheable means if the server responds with an e-tag, then the client can cache it. And then there are other HTTP status codes that are probably not cacheable, that even if the server includes an e-tag, the client's not allowed to cache it. That's my guess. Mm-hmm. But like this is the dance I just hypothesized, right? It's you go somewhere, you go that same place again, and you send the
Another
value of
typical use of the e-tag header is to cache resources that are unchanged. What do you mean another? This would be the primary thing that I would think of.
Good question. Okay, because I think this probably comes from the web dev universe of like the editable web. So I guess this is about what I call the stale update problem. You and I both start editing a wiki page at the same time. And then we both send post or put updates, but we say only do it if it matches. And so then the first person to actually get the request to the backend wins, and the other person gets a message saying, you lost the race.
Git has forest with leaves, similar.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that's considered the primary use case, but caching of unchanged also applies. If nothing matches this, send it to me. Otherwise, if something does match it, just tell me nothing changed. And since we're not including any e-tag headers, my hypothesis is clients aren't going to do any caching. But I am also happy to throw this question at an LLM.
Please, go ahead.
Do I? Right, I wanna quote that distressing language at it. And I don't want to lead it, so I'm just gonna like ask.
Turn for no content status response to HTTP is a specific way web servers tell clients like browsers that a request was successful, but there's no content to return in the response body. Let me explain the key parts of your statement. Turn for status code. This code means no content. The server successfully processed the request, but it's blah, blah, blah. 2, cacheability. When you say cacheable by default, this means browsers and other HTTP clients can store this response in their cache without the server having to explicitly set caching headers.
Okay, so that does not fit my theory.
This is part of the HTTP specification. 204 responses are automatically considered cacheable. E-tag header. An e-tag NT-tag is a validation token included in the response header. Even though a 204 has no response body, the server still includes an e-tag to help with cache validation. So requests, this allows clients to use conditional requests in the future with if not match headers, efficiently determine if the resource blah blah blah. This combination.
Okay, so I'm going to say, should I expect clients to cache a 204 from my server, even if I do not include a e-tag header?
Yes, clients may still cache a 204 response even without an e-tag header. Here's the important context. According to this specification, 204 responses are cacheable by default, regardless of whether you include an e-tag header. This means clients are permitted to cache 204 response even with no explicit caching header. However, without caching headers like e-tag, cache control, or expires, clients have no server guidance on how long to cache, how to validate if their cached version is still fresh. In practice, modern browsers typically cache 204 responses, but their caching behavior might vary without explicit directives. The cache lifetime is up to the client's heuristics without explicit storage information. Without an e-tag, clients can't perform efficient. If you want predictable caching behavior, you should explicitly include caching headers like cache control, max age, e-tag, and expires. This gives you control over how and when clients cache your 204 responses rather than leaving it to client side.
So is there like a value for cache control that says don't cache this?
Okay.
There's something called no cache.
No cache response directive indicates that the response can be stored in caches, but the response must be validated with the origin server before each reuse. even when the cache is disconnected from storage.
No store. Sorry, I gotta run to the bathroom. I'll be back.
Okay.
Hey.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, it certainly sounds like browsers might cache. I'd be interested to try hitting a real API out there in the world and see if it includes cache headers.
Mm-hmm. This is something that LMs are good at, right? Like telling you what is common.
Well, I don't always believe them, but we can start there. What would you like to ask?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. What I would like to ask, because I realize that it's like we could control to it's all a suggestion, right? Because the client decides what whether to cache or not. So we can make these suggestions and say, tell the client, don't cache this thing at all.
Yeah, that seems like probably where we're going to end up. I am like fine with just doing that, and we could like put the no store maybe. Not really sure I am grokking the difference between no cache and no store.
If you want caches to always check for content updates while reusing stored content, no cache is the directive to use. It does this by requiring caches to revalidate each request to the origin server. Note that no cache does not mean don't cache. No cache allows caches to store a response, but requires them to revalidate it before reuse. It's the sense of don't
So
cache.
how do you revalidate if there's no e-tag header to work off of?
I think even when the cache is disconnected from the origin server, like imagine you're online, you're offline. That means if you can't reach, then your cache is invalid.
Okay. Whereas like if you've got an e-tag, but you're not connected to the origin, then it's okay to serve up that response.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, sounds plausible. Okay. So yeah, I'd like to just hit some GitHub API and see what cache headers, if any, it includes.
Sure. But whatever we get there is a reference, because each API has a different semantic meaning. Ours has, what is the meaning that ours has? Look, when you ask, we give you an answer. Like, right? Like, why do we care? Like, why do we get into the caching behavior of whatever is performing these requests?
Right. Give me headers, please.
You want to
Oh,
see
look at
only
that.
the
There's a
headers.
cache parameter.
Mm-hmm.
Verbose. Include full HTTP request and response. That's what I'm talking about. Reset. Here we go. Okay. Access control. So those are CORS headers. Cache control, no cache. There you go. Okay. I'm sold. Let's do it. All our reading and the real world agree with each other.
What is access control expose headers?
That's
And where is the
CORS.
e-tag?
There is no e-tag on this. But this is just saying, hey, this is a JavaScript thing, right? Like if
I'm not familiar.
cross-origin requests something, CORS, this is like I'm on
CS.
domain
Hmm.
foo making a request to an API on domain bar, and before those requests get to happen, like doing a fetch or an XHR, whatever the old school way of doing Ajax is, you do this like pre-flight thingy to see like, am I even allowed to make a cross-origin request? And this says these domains are allowed to make requests to me. This is a star, so this means it doesn't matter what domain you're on.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a nod to control which headers actually get exposed. And it's like useful to not like leak the cookie to another website or something. So you, I guess, opt into exposing certain headers.
Okay.
So it's like if I was, the classic like silly attack is like, say I'm logged into Gmail and Gmail has some API to like delete emails. And then I go to Shahar's website with JavaScript enabled. And then Shahar's website says, oh, I'm going to make an HTTP request to like delete an email on gmail.com. And like a web browser would say, oh, yeah. Requests to gmail.com. I include the cookies for that. And then the backend server says, oh, yep, cool, deleting that email. And that would not be good. So that's why CORS is a thing. Because sometimes APIs really are meant to be used across domains.
I think the first thing that should be explained with CORS is why it's not the default. Why is there no like reasonable default behavior?
I think the default behavior is it's not allowed. But maybe I don't understand the point you were making.
So the default behavior is reasonable, is secure.
I think so. I mean, I think the web has evolved since the early 2000s. Maybe I don't know how old CORS is.
So in a different API, you'd see access control allow origin none, or you wouldn't see this header because the default is.
Yeah. That's what I'd expect. There might be some nuance around like the HTTP verbs, like maybe gets, things that aren't destructive or whatever. Like still gets don't seem safe to me because you could leak like somebody's emails or something. So I certainly don't have this all in my head, but it is about cross-origin stuff.
Okay.
And I think without the headers, I'm pretty sure you can't do cross-origin requests. Or maybe there are some that are possible, but I don't know what they are. So, I mean, this is actually worth talking about. Do we want our API to be consumable by static, GitHub.io websites that people host? Like, should they be able to build a little UI hosted on a different domain? and query our API? And I suspect our answer to that question would be yes.
This would allow services that run like GUIs for this to be developed, like, or
Right.
some of the existing ones to be converted to use this.
Right.
And since they're served from a different domain, without access control origin star, the client would prevent those requests.
So if we do, I think I can demo this pretty quickly. If I do Python 3-m http server, boom, localhost 8000. Okay, great. Here I am on some other domain. And if I try to do like a fetch of, there you go. Access to fetch blah from the origin blah has been blocked by course policy. No access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. No opaque response serves your needs. Set the request mode to no course to fetch the resource with course disabled. So I think this is the nuance that I wasn't remembering. Since this is a GET, which is assumed to not be a destructive operation, you are able to make this request. You just can't see the response if you say, hey, I'm okay with that. And that's what this last sentence, the opaque response, is about.
So it's not secure. It's not reasonable.
I mean, it's secure if, like, so
what about cookies?
Well, you wouldn't be able
whatever
to see the cookies. You'd be able to make the request. Like, say my Gmail has some GET, give it an email ID and it returns the email contents. You could make that request. Gmail would serve up the response to your web browser, but the JavaScript code running in the web browser wouldn't be able to see the response because.
What about the effect on the server?
Yeah, so I think that's where the HTTP verb matters. So like HTTP GETs, which aren't supposed to have side effects, are allowed to do these like opaque requests.
Oh, okay, I get you.
But a post or a put. Now, to be perfectly clear,
do a put.
Somebody could implement an API where a GET does have a side effect, and that would be problematic.
Of course. Try a put.
Yeah, so if we do a put, we should get a different. Yeah. I don't know the fetch API. Do you?
No.
Method. Verb. Oh.
Look at the function. The function fetch itself.
That's this?
Yeah.
Thank you. Resource.
Options object, second parameter.
Request init. Body. Come on. Put. Here we go. Nope. Method? The request method. Okay, so method put. Let's try that.
Yeah.
Method put. Oh, interesting.
And with
but see how the put didn't make it? Yeah, let's try it with mode no course.
Are you guessing?
Yeah.
Oh.
So see how the put didn't actually happen?
Nice.
But if I do a GET.
It's a rejected promise. Nice.
Oh, the GET's also. Oh shit, I'm looking in the wrong place. Sorry. I'm looking here as if that's where the API is going, but that's not where it's going.
It doesn't matter. The promise is rejected, and here the promise is pending.
Yeah.
That's fine.
To be more clear about this, we could look at the actual request sent, right? So if I clear and we do a put, no course, no request. A GET, no course, there's a request.
It has some warning in it, seems like.
The put is unsupported. So that's the rejected promise.
Even in the line in the... Yes, there's this... Don't know.
This icon looks like a warning to you?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, it looks like a semicolon inside of curly braces.
Yep.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
But everything I'm saying makes sense, right?
Yes.
And we probably want a relaxed CORS policy on our server.
Yes.
So let's add a another issue.
Let's... And that's hard-coded? Yeah. This is meant for, like, if you can access it, you can call it. So
Yeah. This is going to go in formally deployed. I mean, maybe we should just build a silly little front end as well. I would appreciate having that.
build a front end in Rust.
I'd be down to see what that's like. Could be fun.
I think there are existing front ends, and I think we should prioritize making this a useful backend so that people could...
Yeah.
I would be much more content seeing all these other front ends switching to our backend.
Yep.
I'd get a kick out of that.
Yeah. Alrighty. So great. I think we want to arm-rfe gh verbose. We're going to add, let me just take a couple notes. So edit. Okay. And then the other one we just filed, CORS. Cool. All right. Just keep thinking of more things to do. Wonderful. All right. Shall we add these headers? They're going to be so simple. We could do this as one PR even, because they're just static, no nuance to them, right?
I want to see what is really necessary for getting this deployed.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So are you saying maybe we shouldn't have put these in the milestone?
I think relaxing the CORS policy is not necessary.
Okay.
Putting in the milestone, we can...
Gone.
Yeah.
I would still like to do this one.
Yes, and the cache is also not necessary. I think we could prioritize it, but it's not necessary. We could deploy this thing. Let people play with it.
Okay, great. There we go. All right. So being aggressive. Here's where we are. Milestone formally.
Go Elon Musk mode.
I do not want to do anything inspired by him right now. Whoops. Sorry. Which one do you want to do first?
404s, 204s.
All right, let's do it. This should be simple. I'm going to rotate. Stop sharing.
Just a reminder, we can steal each other's share.
Yes. All right, get some banana cursor.
I don't like this chat. Okay. So this is, I think I do have just, what, this is fine. Git back. Switch C 204. We are not. Well, we said we talk about it, but do you agree that?
Yeah, let's do it. 204 works for me. I am so not a REST zealot. At my last job, literally everything we did was like posts that returned 200s because we were using like an RPC framework and we didn't give a shit about REST semantics. And it was fine. We built shit, we got shit done.
Share your mob timer room with me, please.
Okay. Mob timer room. Big Pike 71.
You open it from here. Log, are we? No, this is not on top. The base on top of stream origin. And T. Yeah, well, that's not going to work. Here it will work. Um, okay. Test driven.
Let's do it.
Test. API test.
Yeah, it's going to be somewhere in the API. Lib is where the implementation is.
This one. No. Here. Not found. No content.
Okay.
Cargo test. Yeah. Landed. Error. Yeah, not. Is it not an error now? It's not an error now.
It's not an error in the HTTP sense, I guess. But I don't know that we need to call it a landed error. Should it just be a landed response?
Well, This is a short circuit. Oh, it has a semantic meaning, and then it's used with the question mark operator. These are kind of, and its error is not implemented.
Yeah. So that's why I say again, is it just a response? If error is not implemented, are we actually able to use question mark as a short circuit?
Maybe we're not doing that actually. That's a good point. We're not actually doing that.
That would only work in the Rust sense if it were truly an error, right? Or is that not true?
No. Question mark requires it operates on a result. It doesn't care what the E is.
Okay. So, all right. Never mind. I take back what I said then.
But
I do feel like renaming it to landed response could be reasonable.
Well, the thing is, that's not the landed response. Like we have search for functions. Fn landed. See, we're using result here, like for short circuiting, and it's not working very well because we're doing map error. We're not doing map error here. We're doing map error here. So we're doing this thing, and that thing.
Yes.
And this is for the number, and this is for the not found. We have an SQLX. So I think that's the SQLX one.
Okay.
Because 4PR. error. I'm not sure where the SQLX is. Maybe, yeah, the variant. Yeah. So here are two, and then there's PR not found. And maybe we're just not structuring this very conveniently.
I still don't really see what the problem is. What's inconvenient?
That this thing is considered an error, landed error.
Right.
And
I'm proposing renaming that.
Well, and so what I'm saying, yeah, maybe we rename that, and also FN landed this.
Yeah, maybe we stop using result. I don't know. Could we just unconditionally return a landed response?
Yes, and then one variant of it is I don't know if we can do that. Like that one variant of it is JSON. I'm not sure how this.
Oh, I see.
One variant has JSON, the others have plain text bodies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be crazy for them to all be JSON. And given that we're like doing the final, revving out a V2 of the API, that could be an opportunity to change that. Like, I get weird for an API that on success return, for an API to on success return JSON and on failure return plain text.
Is it?
I find that weird.
What's the diff here? So for this branch, this is correct change. Rotated. I suggest we don't make any changes at the moment, other than what we intended to.
Mm-hmm. I'm totally fine with that. So I think we've got an implementation that works, right? We could just make the test pass and call this done.
Right, but then there's this semantic meaning of, well, it's not no content is not an error, is it?
Yeah, and so my proposed fix for that is to rework the API to unconditionally return JSON and call this a landed response and include all the variants there. But we don't have to do that in this PR.
Does Poem support? I don't. Even if Poem supports whatever, but it's not. With Poem Open API, it's more declarative, and then you can't just do whatever. It's it's like in terms of Open API, if it's a success, it should have one type, right? Does that make sense? Like, can you show us what the API spec says about what we have, the design that we have?
The API spec, like run the util run API
Yes.
and look at the UI.
Yes.
Let's take a look.
Because there are different. Yeah, I want to see what those possible return responses are.
Okay, my poor laptop is a busy boy now. I'm gonna grab a glass of water while this chugs away. Be right back. Okay. Still not there. Jeez. What port does this thing listen on? '8080. Wonderful. Localhost 8080. API docs. Okay, what did you want to see here?
Responses. What are the responses?
So 200, 400, 404. Doesn't even have the 204 here.
Yeah.
Why does it not have the 204 here? Oh, because we haven't actually implemented that.
Yes.
Yep.
It seems like
and it
this
does
is
say
correctly representing what we have intended. The 200 is JSON, and the rest have text.
I mean, I'd say it's correctly representing what we've done. I don't know that we
Yes.
really put any thought into this. And I would say that this is weird. And I'd love to change it.
I don't see this as weird. Maybe uncommon. Maybe you're not familiar with this, but JSON represents machine parsable data. And
right.
The only case in which that's relevant is a success. So 400 is completely representative of 404 and 500. That, explains what happened to the reasonable degree that a machine could understand. And further, what is appropriate is for a human.
Imagine
Here
a
is
simple front end
details.
that just exposes a text box for you to query information about a PR. And it doesn't even bother doing any validation. There's maybe no JavaScript involved or very minimal JavaScript. And so it says, okay, I'm going to send that string over to the backend and we'll see what we get back. And the backend validates that it looks like a positive number PR. And if it's not, it returns a 400. These are things that a front end might want to handle and then display to the user, display the error to the user. I do agree that a 500, there's not a lot to do. But it would not be completely unreasonable for a front end to parse an error message and display it to the user so they could report the bug, as opposed to it being hidden.
Well, that's the body.
Console. Right. And
the body
so that's
can
why
be
I'm
used.
saying that's machine. That's stuff that's getting consumed by a machine. There's JavaScript code that is going to consume this stuff. And yes, it absolutely could consume the plain text body, but that's what I mean when I say it's weird. It's for machine consumption for building a UI, or could be used by a machine to build a UI, which is why
plain text
I would
is
expect
a format, just like JSON is a format.
Yeah. You're right. I was just reacting to your comment earlier that you said this is for machines and this is not, and I disagree with that.
It's not for machines. It's because a machine cannot do anything conditionally based on the contents of this. It will only ever pass it through to a human.
Yes.
That's what I mean. Of course, everything is, passing through a machine.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I would suggest is that a 204 is not an error anymore, and therefore it should not be a variant in landed error. But then I have no practical suggestion of how it's implemented with what's provided with by Poem Open API.
I'm gonna rotate over to you.
I mean,
sure what I can't tell is if you're saying, I don't think I have any changes to rotate. To me, it smells weird for us to return plain text in JSON, depending on the kind of request you make or the kind of response we make. And a side effect of fixing that would be it also gives us a straightforward way to write the code here. So this just seems like a win-win to me. I do agree that it doesn't have to be JSON. Somebody writing a front end could specifically handle the in this scenario, I parse the JSON. In this other scenario, I don't. But many client API is just sort of like you do the fetch and you say this thing's JSON, and you don't like say if it's whatever, then it's JSON.
Let's decouple these things.
Yeah, and so the way I'm proposing that we decouple this is we just rename this to landed response, or we just leave it with the weird name, get this PR landed, resolve the 204 issue, and then we have another thing we need to do, which is to rework our API anyways. So I propose that we also rework the response codes to be JSON.
So this is kind of going out of here, and this okay. So a prior refactor, you would say, is to not use a result, and to have a single.
I don't super care about the order we do it in. I think we could land this PR as is, or with a slight rename.
If we don't do it in that order, the other order is to have a result that where the OK is also a variant, and then we have to create the new enum. And then we'd have two enums, one for the success and one for the failure.
Yeah.
So I would prefer doing a pre-commit that merges these two.
A pre-commit that
renames landed error to landed response and adds the variant of success.
Yeah. But we also have a very simple diff here, and we're just getting hung up on the name of the struct. And like, if you want a name for the struct that like doesn't make us feel weird, we could just call it like plain text landed response. And that's what it is. It's not an error. It's just a plain, it's not an error, it's not a success, it's just a plain text response. And then in a subsequent PR, we make it so that we never have plain text responses.
I would prefer the merging of these two, that we don't have two variants.
Yeah,
in terms of order, okay?
Yeah, totally fine.
So I'm switching to main, and main is behind, so I will pull, then I will wait because things are slow for some reason, and then I will switch to something called landed response.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I'll hit the road. Hit the road.
Oh, and to push a little harder on these things being machine consumable, if you imagined a API that allowed for internationalization, then your responses really would be intended for machine consumption, where you'd return like error codes or slugs or something that then some front end needs to map back to something in the user's language.
Still be a plain text body. I don't like it. If you have a piece of like JSON, what's the point of doing message foo or just doing foo? This is also valid JSON. But if this is all you have to say, then it could be plain text and it's just foo.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just saying earlier you said there wouldn't be conditional logic based on the response, and I'm saying, well,
so
actually,
what's the conditional logic that you're imagining? That this is like
there'd be some hash map client side that maps like error codes to or error slugs to like human readable messages.
But they are human readable messages.
No, I'm saying in the future,
Mm-hmm.
an API that is like compatible with internationalization
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't return, or in addition to the English message, would also include like a code or something, so that the front end could map the code or the slug or whatever to some nice message for the user.
I see what you're saying. Uh, I see what you're saying. But wouldn't that be handled by the server? Like if it provides the English, then it would also provide the other languages as well. And that would depend on the content language
Maybe, yeah, maybe you could implement it.
header.
It might be implementable backend, yeah, with the right language header. I don't know what it is.
Nah, that doesn't make sense because the clients could, I don't know. This is not supposed to be cacheable. So
Yeah, maybe
anyway,
there's some neat animation for when when a PR is not found or something. So I don't know. But there's also, I don't know. I'm just trying to justify the thing I want to do. So, full disclosure.
Okay, here's it's called the landed response.
All right, let's do it. Is that to me?
Sorry?
Were you rotating?
Yes, I'm rotated.
Okay.